Hello. So today I share how I ended up in a in an emotionally abusive marriage. Um, if you've been following, you've seen that there was, a sequence of events. And basically what happens is that if you don't deal with stuff, deliberately sit down and deal with things that have happened in your past, traumas and things like that, they will keep following you and you will keep making the same mistakes over and over, like you've seen in my life as I've been sharing. So, because up to this point, if you saw my last video, if you didn't, you can scroll on my YouTube page. I don't have that many videos, so you'll be able to catch up very easily. I don't have that many videos yet, yeah, so you'll be able to catch up very easily. You will see that, um, things just kept on. It was like a cycle. Different um, person, different scenario, but the exact same thing kept on happening. So, up to this point, I still hadn't, properly dealt with either the sexual abuse that I'd gone through. I went through about 3 counseling sessions, but that's not enough to heal from such a traumatic thing. Um, I I hadn't yet healed from all the bad, I wouldn't even call them relationships, situationships that I'd been through, and there were quite a number. Again, if you go through my videos, you'll be able to see that. And things just kept on piling. So at this point, I was determined now to, get married. And so I put these requirements before God. This guy has to have this, this, and this. And like I shared in the previous video, everything that I was demanding was more outward than inward. It was more physical um, than dealing with the core of a person, knowing what their values are, knowing um, what their strengths are, knowing what their goals are, things like that. I totally overlooked that. And like I shared in my previous video, I can't really go into details about that because obviously it involves someone else. So I don't want to put them out there like that. I'll share my part of the story. Um, yeah. So anyway, those things that I demanded from God, I said, it has to be like this and this and this. Or one of the things I can share is that I said he has to be someone who's not from my church, because I was like, guys from my church have burnt me, so I don't want any of them. Which was really very, yeah, just showed how much I hadn't healed, because not everyone at that church was like the guys who had burned me, obviously. But because I was still hurting and whatnot, that was one of the big, big things that I don't want any person from my church. And yeah, that happened. He wasn't from my church. Um, so anyway, we ended up together, and right right from courtship, we did not. I would say we in a year, because we courted for about a year. We met. So I met him like 2 years back. We're in the same class, and then 2 years passed, and I came back into the class, and he was in the same class as me again. So we both skipped 2 years before we completed some course that we were doing together. Um, and so I had met him, the previous 2 years. We were not close. We're just classmates, basic, just hello, hi, nothing, nothing, nothing. And then we met again in the last year of that course after skipping 2 years together. So even that, I was like, Lord, you're the one who has orchestrated this. Obviously, him and I are meant to be. I mean, how come he also skipped the 2 years that I skipped? That's obviously your doing, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so in that year that we were in the class together, we started quoting, I think we started quoting in about, I'd like to say March. So the class started in January and we started quoting about March. No, maybe April. Yeah. We started quoting about May. Yeah, about May. I would say about May. And again, I was in such a hurry. I told God I want to get married within a year. I don't want to wait for long, and I didn't even take time to really get to know this person. Within that year, we hardly, went on dates. We hardly talked due to the circumstances surrounding our courtship. We were both in school, then he was also working, so it was, it was not easy to see each other. But I let that slide, instead of saying, okay, since right now we're busy and we haven't yet gotten to know each other, then let me give it time so that we do actually get to know each other. I didn't. I still went ahead and said, I want to get married in the next year. So we're literally getting married. By the time we're getting married, we had, which was basically a year after we started courting, we had only been on dates together less than 5 times in a whole year. And if it's talking on the phone, we barely spoke. So I hardly knew this person. Hardly. But because he had said he wants to marry me, that's all that was ringing in my head, because I was so tired of being rejected. So we got into the marriage, and let me say this, even as we were heading towards the marriage, oh my word, there were so many things that should have shown me that this might not work out, or at least give it time so that you get to know each other and come to some sort of compromise about things. I didn't pay attention to any of that. My head was just set on getting married and giving my daughter a father. But unfortunately, relationships don't work like that. Worse off marriage. So within the first year, within the first month, I was already miserable because I wasn't getting what I had expected, which we hadn't even had time to communicate to each other about. I was so miserable. We were not friends. We hardly, shared stuff or spoke to each other. We were almost like strangers in the house, and yet we're married. And so that's like sort of being in that marriage is what really gave me a wake up call. Like, you know what, you need to sit down and deal with these things, because you can't keep living like this. You can't keep going around in circles, going, like this cycle has to end. And at that point, I was still hoping that, I could save my marriage. So I deliberately, I would call for counselors to come and talk to us several times. We had counselors come to talk to us, but nothing seemed to change. Nothing changed, because I am the one who was seeing that I wasn't happy. My friend felt like everything was okay, but I didn't. I knew I wasn't happy. I wasn't, because what I what I had brought into the marriage was not the real me. It wasn't. I was still very broken. I was still very, I didn't know myself. But I also knew that what I was getting in the marriage wasn't what I wanted. What was good for me to grow and thrive. Yeah, so I tried bringing counselors. There were we spoke to more than 5 counselors altogether throughout our marriage. And nothing changed. Things kept getting worse and worse, and we kept on misunderstanding each other and drawing further and further apart. It just was not working. And so I before I finally decided to leave, I had to go through this recovery program, 10-week recovery program, where I just took time to get to know myself. Like, what's the big issue here? Why can I make this marriage work? Why am I so unhappy in this marriage? And during that period, I realized that over the years, I had compromised so much of myself just to fit in, just to feel loved, just to feel like I belong. And you can't, the foundation of a marriage cannot be it can't be anything but the real you. It can't be anything but the real you, because the nature of marriage is that you will have conflicts. There'll be many times when you conflict, and that conflict is based on the real you, not the artificial you, because the artificial you remains outside. The real you is who will be in the marriage. But if your partner got married to a fake you, then it becomes extremely difficult to move forward. Because now, when you were getting married, it was a fake you, but now the real you comes up, and you can't take the things that you had accepted when you were getting married. I had compromised myself so much that now that I was in the marriage, now that I was in the marriage, I had to face the real me, and these things that I had compromised were part of the core me, which means I would be unhappy constantly. And so I had to come to the painful decision to end the marriage, because I had started it I started it on lies, basically. My friend came with the real him. He did not hide anything, he did not hide his real self. But because I was so desperate, I accepted things that would hurt me, things that would make me feel small, because I wanted to belong. Yeah, so after that 10-week recovery program, I had to come to the painful decision to walk away, because I had started even getting physically sick because of how toxic the marriage had become. You know, I was constantly unhappy. I was shouting. I was rude. Oh my word, it was horrible. I had become someone I did not like. I did not like the person I had become. And I thought to myself, is this going to be me for the rest of my life? Am I going to, yes, I made a mistake and these are the consequences, but am I going to let my children suffer because of my mistake, suffer the rest of their lives? I'd rather I am happy, but on my own, and they can see their father, and he's happy on his own, or if he decides to get married again, whatever. But I'm not constantly unhappy and angry and sad and everything negative, because that was beginning to take its toll on the children and on myself, my health, and on my husband as well. He was, I mean, obviously you can't be happy with a person like that. So what I have learned over the years is, one, you have to heal deliberately. It can't be a by the way thing, or when you are down then you decide, oh, okay, I need a counselor, it has to be a deliberate thing, and you have to let the person who's taking you through that healing process assess how long you will need to go through that healing process. Because the thing is, these things have lifelong effects. I ended up with 3 children. 3 children who I'm now raising as a single mother. I didn't need to. The first one, okay, you have a mistake. But these 2 as well, that's so not fair on them. And I could have avoided that if I had sought counsel. Of course, I did the best I knew how to then. Now I know better. But this is why I'm sharing this so openly. It's because I know there are people who are about to make the same mistake, or who are already in the same situation. Take time to deliberately heal. Take time to heal. That's 1. 2, take time to get to know yourself. Who are you? Who are you? What makes you tick? What makes you unique? What things has God put on your heart which you mustn't compromise? You mustn't compromise. If you're with someone who you have to compromise those things about you, then you shouldn't be with them. You should be loved for the full you, everything about you. If you have to let go of certain, and I want to be careful about that, let go of what makes you. And what I mean by that is, your values, your dreams, your goals, not your bad habits. Because in every relationship, you have to let go of some things, right? Um, Bad habits, or at least you have to be working on them. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about values, um, your purpose, your dreams, your goals. If you have to let go of that just to fit in with a person, that's not who you should be with. And I know it's not easy when you feel like you've been rejected all your life or you've been alone all your life. I've been there. Oh my word, I've been there. But trust me, it is better to be alone than with someone who you have to compromise yourself for. You will not be happy. You will not be fulfilled, and it will sip through. It will sip through. Yeah. So this is where my story ends, and I hope that you've picked up something that has helped you, that has resonated with you, and that um, you can grow from.